For now, and on the BBC HD channel, we join David Dimbleby in London at the Cenotaph.
Good morning from the Cenotaph, where at 11 o'clock the Queen will be leading the nation in ceremonies of remembrance of those killed in war. This Cenotaph was, of course, built for those killed in the Great War, the war that was meant to end all wars. But how many thousands and thousands have been added to the roll call since then, with the Second World War and all the wars since? Particularly this year, we remember those fighting now, today, in Afghanistan. Since we were here last November, over 100 people have been killed in Iraq and Afghanistan, and the anguish of those families bereaved has been evident for everyone to see. Perhaps this morning, this ceremony will give them some comfort that the nation has not forgotten them. At the very heart of this morning's ceremony is the 2-minute silence at 11 o'clock. It began 90 years ago, a year after the end of the First World War. A silence when people stopped what they were doing and just remembered the millions killed in that war. A moment when, in the reports of the time, the very pulse of time stood still. This morning, the Cenotaph will be surrounded by troops in the old formation of the hollow square, the infantry fighting shape of the British Army. But here on parade will be the Household Cavalry, the Life Guards, the King's Troop, Royal Horse Artillery next to them, fire a gun at the start and at the end of the salute. The 1st Battalion of Irish Guards, who by this time next year will be serving in Afghanistan. The 1st Battalion of the Royal Gurkha Rifles, just back from Afghanistan. And beside them, the Royal Logistics Corps, key people who keep the army going. And the last 3 British veterans of World War I died this year. William Stone and Henry Allingham and Harry Patch, famous figures to all of us, who were here last November to lay their wreaths at the Cenotaph. And their deaths bring to mind the words of a long-forgotten Secretary of State for War, who back in 1929 was asked if Armistice Day would still be celebrated when there were no relatives left of those killed. And he replied, "I hope that when there are no relatives left, we shall have forgotten what war is." Today's ceremony gives the lie to that hope. Stretching up towards Trafalgar Square, thousands of veterans of wars from the Second World War and the conflicts since, Korea and Malaya, Northern Ireland, the Falklands, Iraq, Afghanistan. They're all waiting to march down Whitehall and lay their wreaths at the Cenotaph. And with them there, Sophie Rayworth.
Well, I'm here where some of the 9,000 veterans who will be taking part in the march past today are already gathering ahead of this morning's service. I'm joined by some of the Royal Marines who will be taking part in today's march past, Marines who represent conflicts from ages gone by. Let's start with you first of all, Reg Blake. You are a veteran of D-Day. You have come here for very many years, 30 years. What brings you back here year after year?
I come every year, or nearly every year, mostly in to commemorate my old comrades, particularly the 2 who were with me in my landing craft. We came from near at home, and we remained friends all the years until they died. They used to come with me here every year, but unfortunately I now come on my own, which is very sad, but there you go.
Let's also talk to Terry Duncan. You took part in Aden in the 1960s, and today for you, you remember year after year somebody who you lost on that day.
I do, and not every year, I remember every day. We were tasked in the Yemen to take a ridge, and we had incoming rounds coming from the front side and rear. His name was David Wilson, and he died beside me, and then the dissidents shot me in both legs. But I remember a lot of men, and a lot of men have died, and they're all heroes, every one of them.
Chris Davis, you'll be remembering people who died a lot closer to home today.
Yes, 11 musicians that were murdered 20 years ago in Deal, in the bombing at Deal, yes. And this is a very important time, remembering very young musicians who just wanted to play music as part of a military band service, the finest in the world, and would have been playing probably today. So it's a very sad time, but one that's very important to remember.
And the special day for you in the March Past as well.
Yes, this is my first time. I've just retired. I normally would be with the mass bands on parade this morning, but this is my first time as a RMA.
And let's go right up to present day. In Barry Dore, you've served in Iraq, you've served in Afghanistan, and of course today really has have special poignancy, doesn't it?
Most definitely. First of all, I'd like to say to remember our fallen who died in combat, but also what is also very important is to show our support to the families of those who have fallen.
It's a wonderful atmosphere as well though today, a real sort of sense of solidarity, of comradeship.
You've got Royal Marines, soldiers, sailors and airmen showing that we're all part of one big family fighting for our nation.
And you'll all be marching together?
Most definitely.
Reg, this is a very special day, isn't it, for you?
It is a very special day. It's almost, as I said, 30 years since I came, and well, it just beats everything really to come.
Well, some time to go before the March Past takes place, but good luck to you all, and thank you very much for joining.
Thank you very much indeed.
Among those around the Hollow Square, X-ray Company of 4-5 Commando of the Royal Marines. They returned from Afghanistan, from Helmand, in April this year, having lost 9 comrades with many more seriously wounded. And earlier this week, 3 of them visited the Field of Remembrance, where every year on the grass to the north of Westminster Abbey the public can plant these small crosses of remembrance. And there they reflected on their lost comrades and on what today's service means to them.
It's a privilege, just remember all the lads that have died like all those years ago in the world wars, and still people who serve in here today. On Sunday I'll be remembering one of my best mates, Al Lucas. He died last November up at Kajaki, so I'm going to be thinking about his family, little girl. Basically it's all about remembering all the lads that fought in the First World War, Second World War. I mean, every single person that has died fighting for this country, it's a good way for the nation to respect what they've done.
On Remembrance Sunday, personally for me, we lost two guys up in Northern Helmand. That was Al Lucas and Travis Mackin, which I'll be remembering in particular. It's a chance for everyone to actually focus in and really understand what's been going on, and not just recently but years past. So I think it's a special day. I love seeing the older veterans. It reminds you of past wars, and it's nice to see that still 50 years on they still come here to remember their loved ones, their family in a sense from the forces.
On Remembrance Sunday, I think it's a lot of pride and a lot of honour to stand in the Hollow Square and all the VIPs and the royalty around you. You've got to remember that everyone that you've lost, everyone from past and present, and it's a great honour to be there.
Away from London, all those serving in Afghanistan pause in their duties to remember the dead of that war and the wars before. Services are being held in all British bases in Afghanistan this morning, wherever a padre is present. 4,000 people in